Okay, folks. Happy whatever the hell day this is. Thursday. Strange week. All right. Are we done with the black lining on the truck? No, I guess we probably should do that before we jump on the T-34. Is there any of this left? Maybe a little bit. Maybe just a little bit. I woke up earlier than normal because I went to sleep a lot earlier than normal. A lot earlier. Okay, that's about it for the outside. This one actually didn't come with a cargo cover, so this one will stay permanently uncovered here. And one of the things I just like more than anything else about here is it's covering up the sink marks. This already came pre-painted and it's got sink marks on here on the front. They don't bother me enough to fix them. You know, you go and do all that, and there's probably something else critically wrong with this thing. I'm more interested in spending my time making sure it's painted well. Because then there's other stuff I wouldn't be able to do, like, oh, you can't use that model. Why? Well, because it's not exactly the correct, like, look, I don't design these things. I got that I got that elephant or the Ferdinand to do. It's probably going to be a Ferdinand. Because I'm not putting Zimrit by hand on the thing. And the barrel on it, the muzzle brake on it's huge. It's like way out of scale. Like I'm not going to buy a $5 model and then spend, $20 on the right barrel. Like that stuff's just not that important to me. I'm painting too many vehicles to do that. It's not like it's just a one-off. Kind of a complex pattern here on the bottom of this truck bed. Now, I don't know that this is worth doing. Let's do this. I'm going to end up dry brushing over this. I'm overcomplicating something that's... Because we're going to dry brush over this anyways. All right. We'll let that dry out. Now we'll move on to the 234. What you doing? You eat too much Chinese last night, Jeffrey? What you doing? My daughter was just sending me pictures. She's on her way out of Spain. We're losing our little Spanish diplomat. So, back to the new world. Actually, she's got one more stop. She's got to visit her friend in Belgium, who used to live here. A couple days, and then she's back home. Hopefully, that's what the plan is. I think I'm gonna leave these fuel things off. I'm gonna leave these fuel things off, and maybe we'll put something on there back there. But you're gonna be like that. We'll just take your ass off. Was waiting for you yesterday. Was still buzzing after games night. Well, Wednesday night, if there's one night a week, I'm not going to show up to probably paint. It's going to be Wednesday because it's my day to stay late at work. And see, I got home probably almost 2 hours later than normal. So it kind of throws everything off. Buzzing after games night. Well, it's probably good. Would have said something you would have regretted. Typed something you would have regretted. What did you end up playing last night? Buzzing after games night. You just walked back home, I assume. I never make mixed alcohol in gaming. It's like gaming such a young age, and alcohol's for like, I don't want to be here. Let me have a drink. I don't know. Maybe for gaming with the wrong people, that probably would work as well. I actually have a game night coming up next week, and it happens to be exactly on the same day that the model meeting is. So I'm going to the model meeting, and then I'm gonna stop by for the game to just hang out later. Sorry, you guys picked the wrong. There's only one Tuesday a freaking month. What's up, Ben? Tiny Epic Vikings. Late finish, so was late to bed as usual on Wednesday. Yeah, it was about 8:45 p.m. before I was like, okay, now I'm able to go online. I'm like, nah, it just isn't worth it. I'm gonna stay up like 2 hours. I'm gonna get coffee. I didn't have any coffee when I got home, and yeah, yeah. Wednesday's gonna be the one day that I'll try to remember that next Wednesday. Maybe I'll go on. Actually, next Wednesday the daughter will be here probably. Make sure to film a quick "Where Are They Now" vid updating us on which of the boys. Oh, I don't know. I don't know who's going to be over there. The they said they were going to play an Axis and Allies desert thing, which I didn't know they even existed. Axis and Allies North Africa. I'm like, that sounds good. And then I'm like, son of a bitch, that's the same. The one time they plan in advance, like they're going to tell me, hey, in 2 weeks, so and so's going to come down. You want to do a game? I'm like, good planning. And then they planned it exactly on the same day that the freaking model meeting's on. They don't play on Mondays anymore. They apparently play on Tuesdays. So I ordered that DBF rules. They haven't arrived yet, but I was reading a discussion. It sounds like some good ideas were implemented. I don't know what would have happened if I would have continued playing DBA. It seems like that DBF. I don't really want to speak because I don't know, but it seems like it's something to cover the. It's more fantasy oriented. You could kind of play the regular. I don't know how many people are actually going to ditch DBA that are historical DBA players that would ditch DBA to play DBF. I'm not saying that there's not any good ideas in there. There's clarity, but you're talking about like fracturing even more people. And I don't have anything. I don't have anything against the rules. I'm just like I'm done. The whole idea that things keep coming up and there's nothing you can do about it is just like, just goes against the grain for me. My favorite one is, hey, I just found your DBA videos. Are there going to be any more? Hey, you're about 18 years too late, pal. Well, someone involved said they asked if it could be DBA 4, and they were told to desist. Yeah, So before that was announced, we probably played 6 or 7 test games of something I was working on, but if it was just Mitch and I, right? Or if it was the same people, you could predict who was going to come over every week. That may have been enough for me to continue playing, but just the chaos of, oh, so and so's coming. We're good. We're going to do this. Oh, now they're not. Okay, let's go back to our original plan. Oh, never mind. They changed their mind again. Now they are going to come. It's like, no, no, I can't do it. I have too much chaos at work. And that was before, I mean, the last month has been absurd. Work has been absurd. So, I don't think I'm ever gonna game other than on my own terms from now on until I'm retired. I guess I'm just like fucking bored. The blurb seems to hint that they see this as a unifying set of 3.0 based games. Let's hope they have translated Barker-Eats into English well. This rule caught my attention. Elite elements convert combat rolls of 2 to a 5, and poor elements convert a roll of 5 to a 2. Huh. Well, it's certainly interesting. How many times are you gonna play that wrong or forget? I love shit like that. I just don't like playing it wrong 12 times. You know? Unintentionally playing it wrong 12 times. That's cool though. The whole conforming thing is what is really the biggest problem with DBA. The whole, this guy has to hit exactly like this. That's like, that automatically adds that fake geometry in there that is a problem. Other games are able to handle it. Armati doesn't handle it that way. I'm not saying Armati is a better game. I'm just saying that, I like the scale of DBA. 12 elements or 12-ish elements. I like that. I don't want to be like, hey, well, we're going to play now something it's 37. No. Nope. And I've toyed with playing Impetus, even though people say, oh, Impetus is broken. I'm like, well, can I see it break? You know? I mean, I bought the rules. Haven't done anything with them. I'm not building bigger stands. I just, the stands are like twice the size of DBA armies. So I'm just like, man, we'll just have the movement and have the playing scale, and then just use the full, just a element of, You have a whole element per, a unit that's this big, behaves, they're like twice as deep and twice as wide and twice as deep. So just have all the distances. Have the playing space, and you have a DBA size board, and then play it. And see if it's even worth liking. The problem is, I don't want to do the homework. I don't want to do the homework to figure out how to play the game. I don't want to. If you're running the game, absolutely, let's play, right? But sit there and rack my brain, I just don't want to do it. Probably less often than Nan Chow Pike support. How that rule isn't laid out more prominently is a perfect example of Barker's endless war with conveying information. He's a sharp dude, but if people misunderstand what you're trying to say, they're not going to realize how sharp you are. And we're not linguists or. Imagine if English isn't your first language. How the hell would you ever learn how to play DBA? He must have really bad credit because he can't afford enough punctuation. Like, dude, put one thought together and put a period on it, and then put another thought and put a period on it. Baby steps, not It's certainly very captivating, and maybe that's why I played it for so long. Because it's challenging, and not challenging try to figure, but it's just multifaceted. You can't just be oh, okay, this is a 4 and this is a 3. Okay, the 4 is always better. No, it's not. It depends. Is it a Tuesday? Did it rain the night before? What did you have to eat? Peanut butter and jelly or bologna? It depends. There's a Spanish QRS for DBF. I can't play that. I don't understand. I don't understand those technical words. Back to the chain gang for me. All right. No bank holiday this week. Banking on the bank holiday. I need to get my aircraft wreck off the ground. I think at the point that I've gotten really lazy about two things: sealing and basing things. Basically, because you're firing everything up just to give something a clear coat. It's not going to look that much different. I don't know. I need to go in there and matte coat several things, including the aircraft. I'm going to matte coat the aircraft, glue it on that stand, make the stand for it, put the goop on it, and then do the final weathering on it. I'm going to have to take a look. I don't know that I've ever seen a T-34, an actual T-34 with these little things on the side of it. Yet, this model has them. The SU model has them. I don't know if they're little hooks to put things on, but every one of these plastic model T-34s has them. The Skytrex ones don't, but they're missing a lot of stuff. That's not unusual. That was attractive to be compared to WRGs. You could easily get 2 to 3 games in a club compared to maybe finishing one game of 6. You could make about some 3 DBAs. Yeah, I mean, you finish every game. That's a big plus. Especially when you come from a background where you can't finish any games. Well, with one more turn, this would have happened. And most games are really close. But I've never played a game before where when you knock out a third of the army, it's the game's over with. I mean, that's really low. There's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons why it's a quick game, and that's one of them. The other one is it just doesn't take long to set up and get going. Oh, well, I don't think I'm going to get that little ship done by next Tuesday. I don't want to. You know, this is all turned into do what I want to. Like I'm toying with doing some Asian vehicles, particularly Japanese. I got two to do. The reason against them is that they're not very good models of what they are. So just like that Hago, I think the Hago turned out great. The problem is the model's all like handicapped looking, you know. Mio Gaming, what's up? T34, yep, T3485. The second one. This is the first one that we did. With the crappy lighting here, this lighting is it's good for me. It's not for you. It's not good for you guys. I guess I got to glue the top half and the bottom half together too. The comprehensive abstraction of rules met the intent of the game as a time to allow for faster tournament play. The wargame world's needs have evolved. Yeah, I don't know if that's why when people say I don't have time to play DBA, I'm like, well, you don't have time to wipe your ass then. You know, if you're going to be traveling from place to place and setting things up and taking things down, the DBA really works well. But if you're just going to play in one place, I don't know, it was a good run. But the guys, they were out, they were playing all kinds of different rule sets. They were playing DBN, they were playing, what were they playing? Maurice. Then they converted all the figures for Maurice to, now that all they're doing is they're playing commanding colors with miniatures. Or the World War II one, Memoir. And I'm like, it's a good game, but that's kind of a waste to use miniatures for that. I honestly I think the game looks better on a board game than it does with miniatures. You have to squint your brain too many times to realize, you know, some of the things. What is what? But hey, you know, do whatever you want to do, but you know, there's nothing wrong with the Command and Colors games. They just don't want. They don't motivate me to read history, and they don't paint a narrative that's interesting enough. I'm almost done with that Tunisia book. Almost like I'm on the last chapter. Got another 15 minutes or so, and then I've got the epilogue, and then we move to Sicily and Italy. So there's some interesting characters. There's some interesting characters that I didn't know anything about in in the Tunisia book. Like, what did I find out the other day? Yesterday. Oh, that the Eighth Army and the other British guys didn't want to be confused with each other. I had no idea. Like, there was like some angst there. I'm not even talking about Americans and British. I'm talking about British and British. Like the Eighth Army and Montgomery and Montgomery's Eighth Army and whatever army Anderson had. I'm familiar with the Eighth Army. I'm not really familiar with Anderson's army, like which units were in it. But that's interesting. Be interesting to see how that all develops in Sicily and Italy. I'm holding off on painting those Shermans. I am going to the next model show is in about 5 weeks, and one of the things I'm looking for sure is at least one of those Airfix Shermans at a really cheap price because I've got to remake the back plate. I got the other two Shermans don't have back plates, so I'll make it out of card or something like that. But I'd rather take the actual piece and like cut it out and make two of them kind of thing. You do find the rigid aligning grading, but I understand why you did that in the context of the philosophy of the game. Most formations dissolve and intersperse mobs on contact. Yeah, once they get into contact, it doesn't bother me. It's beforehand that it's a weird abstraction, and I'm just going to call those type of troops skirmishers from now on. I'm not using that PS word. The annoying PS word. That one Greek speaker said, "You're pronouncing it wrong. You should be calling it Sealy." I'm like, if you called it Sealy, nobody would know. Nobody would know but you. Found a similar great when playing Long Street by Sam Mustafa. Mustafa. He's like a he's like a Turkish guy masquerading in Germany, isn't he? I played the Maurice game a couple times. I thought it was a good game. However, I don't think it. I think it made the period a lot more interesting than the period actually was. So, which is probably the opposite of Rommel. I couldn't play Rommel. That's one of his games. Or Nimitz. I shudder. I shudder to think what Nimitz is. Like, no, you don't dumb down World War II naval. Not for me. The only thing I'd be able to play a dumbed down version is the imagination thing. I was coming up with my own house rules for that, based on chances to hit on a dice, because that's one thing that I find really annoying in rules is how much figuring it takes to find out that the unit that you fired at missed. So you need to speed that process up. Once effects are actually happening, but just like, okay, let's see if you can hit them. Okay, just roll die. Like it's a 10. Okay, it's not even close. Just get that over with. Get in line. But the only one of his games, the only one of Mustafa's games I've ever played is is Maurice, and it was, Joel ran it because he was the most familiar with. I think Mitch and I played. And I felt like you had a lot of options in the game. It was a lot less rigid than the period would have been, you know. I've seen videos of games of Nimitz, too abstract for me. Yeah, no. I saw Rommel one time, I think playing one time, and it was like, not only is it squares, but like all tanks are the same. I'm like, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not for me. No, the German tanks are different than the Allied tanks. Also wrong. All right, well, we've got like light and heavy tanks for the Gerp. Also wrong. No. What kind of Tiger is it, Is it a Panzer III-L or an M? Or J? Doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter to you. I think advanced squad leader is generic enough. There's a lot of things I like about advanced squad leader, but I'll never play that again. Mainly the turn sequence is too rigid. And I really had high hopes for Lock and Load Tactical as a multiplayer game because it looks good. It's basically a squad leader ripoff, without the bell curve. You have you have comparative dice rolls. So I have a number, you have a number. I roll a die, you roll a die. Add them together, see what you get. I like that. That keeps both people involved. I like that mechanic. It's a new mechanic to me, meaning I never heard about it before DBA. But you've been playing DBA a while. I know, but it's my last game. It's the last game that I've played, so it's still a new concept. But man, the multiplayer on the computer, I tried it so many times and it kept getting out of sync. I don't know if they have it fixed by now, and the game looks good. It's a good looking game on the computer. I just tried playing with like 4 different people, and it's one thing when you sit there and you're like, hey, I'm gonna paint, and I'm gonna paint 2 hours, and I have something to show for it, right? And it's another thing where you try to get together with, say, Frank, whoever the hell Frank is. But Frank, hey, let's play this game. All right, we'll get together at 10. All right, and we spend the next hour and a half trying to link up the games or playing a couple turns, and you get out of sync, and both people are frustrated, and we just pissed away 2 hours. That's very, very different. Like, I can do this all day, and I'm fine morale-wise. Something like that happens, and I'm like pissed. I'm like, you got nothing to show for it, and you were frustrated. So I don't like computery things for that same reason. They're great when they work. When they don't, you're like, what kind of a dickhead invented this? So, like, I can't see you in the lobby. I'm pressing this. Press the red button. I am pressing the red button. No, you're not. Show him a screenshot. Look, it is. It's the fucking computer. It's the thing is wrong. The interface isn't working. And I swear they're rushing these games out and faster and faster and faster. This new thing that didn't exist anymore. What is it that you like prepay for a game that's not finished, whatever it's called, at a discount? Can't remember what it's called right now. And many times they never finish the game. What was that game I had high hopes for? The Troop? I think it's called The Troop. I'm playing the demo and like, you can't move and fire with assault weapons. If you throw a grenade, you're done. It's like, how the hell are you ever going to storm a room? Like, no, not for me. And some people love that. I'm like, no. And then you take something like, Call of, whatever the hell it's called, Call of the Ostfront game. That it's pretty darn good. And it's a learning curve. And you don't play it for 3 months and you forget how to play it. Or you play it and then you play it 6 months later and the computer doesn't run the same way on the computer. Like it runs running jagged, and you go to zoom in on somebody and you overshoot them, and where's that unit? He's over here. Oh, hold on. Let me, and I'm not like a handicapped person when it comes to moving things on the computer, but it's like, man, it's like frustrating. Like, all right, let me go zoom on this tank. And you're like, oh shit, I'm over here. Hold on, let me move a little bit further to the right. Crap, I overshot him again. All those little glitchy things while things are happening all the time. It's like, that's why I don't play a lot of computer games, because there's frustration that comes with those things that doesn't come with this. I don't know if you watched yesterday's stream, but I actually had an unusual situation that happened yesterday at the end of my show that rarely happens, and I ended up, in my haste of trying to get the gunmetal on here, I ended up picking up some. This fucking bottle almost ended in the garbage can, okay, because it was leaking everywhere. This Iron Warriors, and ended up getting a glob of silver paint here in the front corner. Oh look, I got a glob up here too. Yeah, it was a fucking disaster. Not a fucking disaster. It's not like I can't fix it, but now I gotta fix this, you know? And that it rarely happens. Hadn't seen this one. I knew about the front corner. No, it was just fucking getting everywhere. It's like, Jesus. I don't know whether it dripped this, I've got drip here, but I'd just pour all those things up in little bottles. I love their paint. That container is just a disaster. Anyhow, it's all done except that. Add just a little bit of whitewash over it and it'd be all right. But I do this because it's like basically no frustration. It's like a win every time. And, I don't have to have this done by a certain time. It's like, oh, we got a game coming up on Saturday. Hurry up. And I've certainly done those rush things way too many times. I'm not doing it again. I remember there's a friend of mine who was coming up with a set of sailing ship rules. I forgot what the hell. Beat to quarters. I don't know what the hell it was called. It's called something. It was a long time ago. It was probably 30 years ago. And we're going to have a game on, I remember it being on a Sunday. Sunday morning. They're going to come over to my place when I lived at the condo. This would have been probably like 1998, 1997, 98, something like that. And so several of us bought one of those GHQ 1200 scale ships. I got a 74 gun ship of the line, which I painted it like a British ship. The little yellow portholes, and not the portholes, but the lines on it. And then inside they got the little flaps. Painted nice, all done in this kind of style. I was already painting decent by that time. Weathered all the sails and everything. And then the rigging, which I would do a heck of a lot better job now. But anyway, so we go to rig the thing, and I invent a few curse words. Just because it's difficult to get into where you need to get into. Should have just taken my contacts out, right? I was trying to do it in 2020. Stay up basically all night. I spent probably 20 hours worth of work finishing this thing. because of course I waited till the last minute. Played the game once, hate it, never played it again. I don't like sailing ship games. And one of the biggest reasons I hate about sailing ship games is they have an intrinsic problem with firing because you don't have a 360 field of view. Games will either allow you to usually fire after the movement, or maybe some will give you the flexibility of firing before the movement. So you have a ship that it's not an arc here, but there's one in between it. It's not an arc there. It moves through. Now you have a target, but at the end you're not an arc again. You don't. That ship doesn't get the fire at all, and it's like it's fucked up. And it's even worse if you're playing something from like Civil War period. Well, I played this one game where we were playing the Southern ships, and we're in casemates. We didn't get the fire, but the other guys, because they were turreted, got the fire on us. So it's like, oh, let me just show up here and not get to play. It's basically what it was. So I'm like, well, that system's broken. So I don't know what the solution is. I mean, you don't want to like stop in the middle of movement and firing because that's annoying too, but at least you get to roll some dice. I was like, oh no, look, it's almost time to go. I was like, nope, I got another hour. Oh, time to get some, what do we got in there? I think we got Purple Drank. Be right back. I was rambling and realized that the microphone was. I don't know why feel like I got to set the microphone. Got to turn it off in case I break wind over there or something. I don't know. It's not necessary, but it's just habit. Anyways, I got Purple Drank or whatever this kind of adult beverage is. Not Kool-Aid. What's the shit called? I don't know. Wife's like, I'll make some of this so you can cut down on soda. I'm like, okay. Yeah, I'm not drinking hardly any soda at all. I want something that doesn't have the taste of water. I drink enough water at work and only water. What is that stuff called? Crystal light. That's what it is. Crystal light. Yeah, my daughter's taking last videos and pictures of the land of castles, and should be back here where we don't have any fucking castles here. The land of no castles. I really need to write down a list of stuff to watch with her while she's here. She's got to take some summer classes that are gonna be like really, really hard the next couple semesters. So may not be able to watch a lot of stuff. I know we got to watch Gladiator 2. I promised that I was gonna watch it again with her. It wasn't that bad, other than I mean, it could always be better, but I was expecting it. It's so much better than Napoleon. Napoleon is like one of the worst movies I've ever seen. So I imagine if you really like Napoleonic stuff, you really hate that movie. You know, the casting's wrong on it. The feeling of the movie is wrong on it. I mean, there's so many things that are wrong on it. Like, if you want to see for the uniforms, there's probably something better to see for that. But it's kind of annoying to have the best Napoleonic movie, people would probably argue, would be Waterloo. And Waterloo is just, I mean, basically at the end of the, it'd be like, well, I guess it's equivalent. Like, what's the best World War II movie? Downfall. Oh, so like basically the last days of a regime that conquered, like, a good part of the world is the best movie. That's the theme. 'Cause that's what Waterloo is. Waterloo's basically like the French already been defeated. It's like the comeback, the knockout at the second coming. It's like, now you would think that if Napoleon is that, and I'm not a Napoleonic person, but if Napoleon is that much of a good military commander, they should have a movie that showcases him like fucking winning. Like. We're gonna make a movie about Napoleon, who's this great military commander. What is that? Oh, it's gonna be about like his only defeat. Like, okay, well, you never found out why he was good at what he did from that movie, other than he got outdone. His campaigns, yeah, nobody knows. Nobody knows about that stuff. Marengo and stuff. Yeah. And I don't hate Napoleon. I don't like Napoleon. I'm kind of indifferent. To me, he's like Alexander the Great in that I don't think of him as a bad guy. He's just, warmongery, but so was everybody. You know? But do you get an idea from any of the movies that they do about Napoleon about what made him why he was so successful? I don't think so. Maybe you get the idea that he's decisive and other people maybe aren't. Well, that's a good quality as long as you made the right decision. Like, I'm going to make a decision quickly about it, but it's going to be the wrong one. That's probably not a good trait. If you're decisive and you make the right decision, well, that's different. Okay, this end is done. The front needs that. Let's do the turret and then we can do some writing on it. Maybe, if we get around to it. Here's hoping. I think I'm gonna do that guards unit that has that big marking on it. Big red thing. I should have it on my phone. Would it be considered that Napoleon built his army from scratch? If he did, then I'd be like leg up from Alexander the Great. As far as that's my big gripe with Alexander the Great is that Daddy built the army for him. I mean, sure, the guy was brave and man, but without Daddy's army and the veterans in Daddy's army, that's why he could go in at the basically be the knight general, go into combat and not fall apart because everybody freaking knew what they were doing. Not really a gripe with Alexander the Great, but the reason why I don't think he's the bee's knees, I shouldn't say that. Why I don't think he's the best commander ever. I should say that. Oh, I have a question for you. Let's see if I can find what movie this is from and if it's any good. Oh, it's a mini series. Okay. Now I just saw a clip of. It's a Julius Caesar miniseries. I saw a clip of Richard Harris's Sulla, and I'm like, oh man, that would work. But 80% love the historical accuracy. That's the period that I thought they should have done for the Rome stuff. They should do the Republic stuff. Every time they do some Rome thing and it's some empire thing, I'm like, they do that because They got all the Empire armor is a lot easier to come by for the soldiers. I think he arrived at a time when the French were changing from the Royal Army to Revolutionary Army and conversion of the levée and masse to regulars. Yeah, I don't, from a wargaming perspective, as a wargamer, I'm pretty ignorant. Like, I haven't really played any Napoleonic games where I've, been like, okay, well, let's read about them kind of thing. From a person off the street, I'm an expert. I know there's a lot of people that play. Used to be a really popular rule set. Actually, the author of the rules used to come to our convention and put on games. But anybody overseas play the Sword and the Flame? The author of the rules lived like in, I want to say Louisiana. And he would come on and put on in the early 2000s. He'd put on games here at our shows. He was a cool guy to play with. The guy had like some energy. He's like, and I think it was an ex-marine, and I think that period has a lot of potential. I don't know that I'd want to play it the way it's intended. I think white people versus natives gets old. I'd like to play white people versus with natives versus other white people with their natives. I think that's the way to play it. I've always played the natives only, so not because I'm against playing white people. Just everybody wants to pay the elite elite troops, and I don't mind playing irregular guys. Played Sword and Flame a couple times, but have moved it on. Yeah, it's the only set of rules that I've played of that period. It's almost like, I guess it's like really old school in that I think every unit has to have 20 feet people in it and things like that. Like there's one person that I know that's really devoted to it. And he actually has really good looking games. The problem is you can't ever get into them because there's only spots for like 6 people. And I actually got a chance to get into one of his games, and then like great, the one convention that I'm not staying for all 3 games. Once a Marine, always a Marine. We're never ex-Marines. Well, but I'm not thinking about it as a Marine. Well, what if you got dishonorably discharged? Are you still a Marine? The only World War II troops that my favorite figure manufacturer makes that I don't have are Marines. And it's not that I don't like U.S. Marines in World War II. I'm just not interested in island hopping stuff. It's too. With that said, I may get them at one time, but it's just a little too like one side's got all the fun toys kind of thing, you know. But are you an okay Marine? And you know what I'm talking about, okay? Because there's some people that drank too much of the Kool-Aid, drank too much of the Crystal Light. I was playing a war game, and it was probably close to 1990. It might have been 89. It might have been 91. And we were playing combined arms. So one of those fold a gap scenarios. One of those games that Gorby ruined. And I love the people that are like they're worried about Russia in a land war against Europe. Like they can't even fucking beat Ukraine. But okay. But anyhow, yeah, Gorby ruined those type of scenarios. So we're playing this fold a gap scenario, and this guy comes back who I think at the time was a practicing Marine, and he took a couple mortar rounds to the head. I mean, this was before any of the Gulf Wars or something like that. And he just came in here and he was like in this muttering mode. Like he was like, "You got any mortar men? I'll play, but I want to play some Marine mortar men. And mortar base weighs 35 pounds. Mortar tube weighs 20 pounds. Ammo weighs." And he started just like rattling off all this stuff like one after the other, like this is my rifle. This is what to the extreme, but about mortars. Like holy shit, he drank the mortar Kool-Aid. And yeah, you need to be able to. And I have no problem with veterans. I'll be the first to tell you that I wouldn't have made it. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. What are you gonna do? Dig a hole? Okay, cool. Now what? Fill it back up. All right. Now what? Dig a hole. Where? Same place. Like nope. No. We need like a task list of like people to take out. You know. Give me a name of people that we need to take out. But just like doing busy work. Like no, we could be doing better things with our life. But with that said, I may have Marines at some point because I love that sculptor. But I just don't want to. I just didn't get into it. I'm going to do Pacific stuff soon, but I think the Philippines is the place to go. Nobody does the Philippines. You could do 40. You could do 41, 42, and 44 and 45 in the Philippines. And and the Marines were there, but in just small numbers. It's basically U.S. Army operation. I do like the fact that the camo covers on the Marine helmets, those are cool. I like that. So sounds like a reservist and a grunt. You had a highly technical job. Yeah. You're a smart Marine. A smarine. Okay, just adding the black lining on here makes a big difference. All right, let's start making the magic happen. I got enough time for some magic. Nope, we got tons of these. Let's use a new one. What's up? Rookie fee. Rookie fee. That's like a Disney character. like a meerkat or something. What's up, man? Welcome back. As an outsider, and I don't mean this disrespectful at all, and this may not be the case now, but see, I'm still stuck in the 1980s and the 1990s, like when we're fighting the Soviets. So in that time period, it seems like the Marines got the short end of the stick. And what I mean by that is, like, they got the tanks that weren't the latest tanks. They got the aircraft that weren't the latest aircraft. They got the freaking Ospreys. Remember when the Marines got the Ospreys and you couldn't keep those things in the sky? Like, that's not cool, man. Like, you're going to send those guys in first. They should have the best stuff. And it just, and then they may get the best stuff now. But when I was doing wargaming of modern at some degree or another, it just seemed like they got the short end of the stick. You know, and that's not cool. You know, they go into Gulf War One, and they got M60A3s, which I guess are good enough to, you know, fight the Iraqis when you have total air superiority. Complete and total air superiority. Actually, that sculptor that I like, they make modern Marines, but they make them for the Grenada War. So that's pre Fritz helmet. I guess they don't call them that anymore, but I'm old school. I remember when they called those those are the Fritz helmets, right? You were in the Gulf War, the first one. I know the other one's called something different, but I call them Gulf War 1 and 2. The HW Gulf War, I would imagine. That's that should be enough green. Now the interesting thing about World War II Marines is the tanks that they get, they're painted a different I swear they're painted a different color green, and they're really pretty. Yep, okay. Yeah, the ones where, you know, the Air Force did their job, and I had a friend of mine was in Gulf War II, and he was in a Bradley. I think he was a platoon commander, and I forget it wrong. Sorry, I tried to get it right. He was a platoon commander in a Bradley platoon that was air defense. So when it went off, my wife asked me, "What do you think he's doing these days?" And I'm like, he's probably doing anything but whatever he was trained for, because in Gulf War II, the enemy air forces took off even less than the first one, if I remember correctly. So, you know, if you're in air defense, you know, an air defense Bradley is only going to do their job if the Air Force isn't doing theirs. The KBR Gulf War. I don't know what KBR is. I've never seen that. I know what it is. I just don't know what the acronym is of both of them. The line in the sand, Gulf War. I think we'll use this one. We'll use this one. And I got to be careful because I'm not a good multitasker. And yeah, so like if he's doing what he's trained to do, the Air Force isn't doing their job. And sure enough, he ended up getting. He said he got reassigned just before it started to something totally different. He got moved like one echelon back, and he was upset because he got trained to do A, he's doing Q. So he's not good at Q. The guys that took over his position are dropping the ball. He's having to deal with the repercussions of that. Just, you know, typical stuff that I guess happens in any job. Kellogg Brown and Root. What the hell is that? I didn't get the memo on that. Sorry, man. Not trying to be difficult. I just literally don't know. Anyhow, so this guy was like all over the place. Now in Vietnam, I think they got just as good at tanks as the army did. But I don't know. I'm not a Vietnam. I'm not a fan of asymmetrical warfare. A lot of moving parts in asymmetrical warfare. And somebody was asking me about jets night before last. If I do any jets? Yeah, I do. I just don't know have anywhere to put them. There's certainly a lot of jets that I like, and it has nothing to do whether or not they're worth a damn. There's just some jets that are beautiful. I think an F-5 Tiger is a gorgeous aircraft, especially if you have one of those. I think the Brazilians paint them up really cool, and I think there's a Navy aggressor type pattern that's has some blues. It's just a beautiful aircraft. I don't know. I don't care if it's worth a shit or not. I'm just, what's that new plane? F-35? I don't care if they're the bee's knees. I'm never building a model of one. They're ugly. I think the modern aircraft are ugly. One of the largest multinational construction companies that was making billions building Iraq's infrastructure. Yeah. Well, I don't want to know how the sausage is made because then we're all going to get really upset. Like I moved into a neighborhood where the very first thing I bought for this house was a flag because a guy here had a flagpole and I put a flag. So first time I ever bought an American flag because I got a flagpole. Like, okay. And it's like I tell people, it's like I'm not like uber patriotic. But for my generation at least, like the flag means it's not necessarily what America really is, it's what we think it is. And you know what I mean? It's like there might be all these games that get played behind the scenes and stuff like that 95% of us aren't aware of and we don't want to know, but it's the idea of what it is. And maybe it was a wrong idea all along, but that's what we grew up with, and like I was never in the service. I came really close to going into the service right after. I still don't know which one the Kellogg Brown and Root one is, but at about 92, and they didn't take me for a silly reason. And it's probably a good thing that they didn't take me, not because I would have been a spy or something like that, but I just don't deal well with the busy work. Like I don't need to be kept down so I don't cause any trouble. Just leave me in a room. I'll build models. I promise I won't cause any trouble. I mean, hell, I behave better when I drink. So, but that it is what it is, but, yeah, I was watching, what's that show that was on there? Everybody was telling me, oh, it's a really good show. The one with Chris Pratt, where he is some special service ops guy and he gets hung out to dry basically with what the government. I started watching that show and I'm like, I've never been in the military. I don't have any family that's been in the military. I'm getting angry. I'm getting angry watching this show to think that 30% of it could be accurate. I'm like, I can't watch this, so can't watch this show. So those of you foreigners that are watching that are wondering, oh, America's always trying to stick their nose in things. Some of us don't want America to be sticking your nose in your business, just so you know. You know, we're fine leaving other people alone. Tyler the Creator. Do I get to be a creator too? Or am I more just of a modifier? Well, if I was a creator, I would have never created little communists. And that's what these guys are. All my Russians are communists and all my Germans are Nazis, and that's how I like to keep it. All right, I think we have enough of this initial dry brush to kind of smooth things out. This is way too nice looking for the paint schemes that these things did on. They just slopped this paint on them. Get them up. Wipe down tank with white mop. You know. All right, let's see if I have that picture on my phone. I hopefully I did because it was difficult enough to find. I did. Okay. So that's the symbol that we're going to try to do on there. Not try to do, we'll do it. I ain't scared of that crap. And we have a relatively small area to do it under. And I probably shouldn't try this because I'm under a time crunch now to go to the salt mines. But I am thick-headed like ox. And a brush we can count on. I think we can count on this one. It's safer than trying to open this thing and getting black shit all over you. All right. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to let's put the number first, then we'll put that. That damn thing's right in the way, isn't it? Just doing the verticals. Let's get the 607 in here. Here's the '07. So before we fill this in on the other side, before we fill this one in, let's get the other one working on the same place on the other side. All right, so now we got. Say do all your vertical lines. That is to establish scale. Yes, that's so I don't get. That's so I don't get, especially on the right on the writing. It depends how neat you want it. This is probably neat than the communist that freaking drew this thing. Yeah, just to get everything the spacing right. And if it's, I don't know. I just came up with that. It just kind of made sense to, want to get too carried away. Sometimes you get too like tunnel vision. you look at something and it's like, oh man, this looks great. And then you look back and like, oh crap, it's off angle or whatever, you know? But the main thing is just take it one stroke at a time. At least that's what works for me, anyways. And I sometimes have to do some cleanup, but not very often. It's usually neat enough. I'm more sober than the person to put this on here. You know, by this period of the war, they the Russians knew they were going to win. It was just a matter of when. And then we will come in. I gotta wait for this to dry completely. I don't want to actually like clip some of the red away. But when we got the dripping stage, and I don't worry about them being two different units because the reality is all of the tanks would probably the whole brigade would all have the same symbols. And that's like boring. That's like an opportunity to paint something different. So